Good evening, everybody. I went to the gym. I've been doing that heavy, getting in good shape, but I had an incredible experience last night. I'm just going to adjust this, I think, with the light. I had an incredible experience, very negative last night, but a growth, a learning curve, a new understanding of Islamist extremism. A new understanding of Islamist extremism here in Canada and probably throughout the world. I have a new appreciation of the United States in relation to the terrorist child soldier, the experience with Rocco Galati, and all of the people that he's represented here in Canada over the years. American terrorists, ISIS, you name it, Islamist extremism. And I met one of those lawyers last night right here in Bowmanville, and a lawyer, and I didn't know a lot of the terminology. The train might come. It's a bad timing here, but it's very alarming what I'm going to go through here, and I might have to break. Give it a second. Sorry, folks, that's bad timing. But that's GTA for you. Only two major roads, everybody in between, trains on either side too. So I'll have to let it go by. I'm sorry, I apologize. Hopefully it's a short one. And it was. Okay. Passenger train. Very quick. Okay, folks, last night, so this lawyer meets with me. It's out of the Rocco Galati group. And I don't like him at all. But this woman goes on to say, hey, Dave, she's been following me for a number of years. Doesn't follow me anymore. We had a huge public blowout in front of actually a lot of people here in Bowmanville. And, you know, I had listened to her presentation towards about a half an hour. And at first, very nice lady, very articulate, very knowledgeable. And then she got into all of these radical ideologies and radicalization of Canada, North America, of course, down with America, down with First Peoples in Canada, really. I can't make this up. And so now I have a full picture of Islamist extremism, and I want people to understand this. This is not Middle East-born Islamists. These are English-speaking, born here in a privilege. These are folks left over from the Ottoman Empire, attached to countries like Spain intimately, Italy intimately, UK intimately. All of that radicalization we see in Canada with all our political parties, and these folks who gain MP seats have huge representation in all the parties. They're not even measured by the reality of what the population of Islam is in Canada. Not even reflective. It's an overabundance in all the parties. This too is true of the UK, going on at a much higher pace and longer running amount of time than in Canada. You go through Europe, you'll find this is France, this is in Italy, this is in Spain, throughout Europe, especially those kingdoms. And a lot of people point straight to the Middle East, but you know what? Those are just followers of Islamic extremism that was created out of France. France is the UNSC that runs Europe. Now, I've known all this. I've articulated all of that for all of you. I've been doing a lot of videos on these things. This lawyer that came to meet with me is out of that extremism, who was going to try and gain what, I don't know, or try to convince me of a cause and a completely absolute bullshit narrative. When I say that, I mean completely lunatic. This is a bar-holding Canadian from England with the English accent, believing everything they're saying about sovereign citizen. This is Rocco Galati's wife's best friend and also lawyer partner. And she was trying to convince me of radical ideas about the United States and its history, Canada's history and its evolution, completely discarding the First Peoples, the notion that there was ever a slave trade, that basically black people were here in North America before Indians. Indians came out of the black people, and I just said, whoa, and I called it out. We had a huge public blowout. It was huge, like a raging yelling match. Not me. She was yelling at me and going crazy. This woman's driving a BMW, dressed to the nines, buying an expensive set of drinks, all of it. She covered her tab. But what started so innocent and friendly was supposed to be a normal presentation from a lawyer in a law firm turned into radical, crazy, beyond any measure I could ever imagine. I now have a full knowledge of the Sovereign Citizen Group, its attachments to Islam. That's much older than even that. It's the birth of this crazy corporate Canada and the Sovereign Citizen. It's all from Islamist extremism. And when I started looking it up, you can all look it up too, Moors, Moors, not the South African Boer or the Moors there and all of that. It's not that. This is a mid-time, the middle world, age of empires, kingdoms, castles, all of that. These are these folks who transitioned into those kingdom empires in that feudal system. They're not extremely old. We're talking the last 500 years. Crazy. They believe adamantly that they were here before the First Nations. And I'm like, lady, I'm sorry, Rocco Galati and all of your group are a piece of shit. Terrorists attacking America, ISIS soldiers, all of that. I don't stand for any of that. How Canada's Crown passed that case and paid Omar Khadr $10 million is beyond me, and paid out a lot more than that. And how he won that, and he did fundamental changes to our financial system to debt load the Canadian people. This was all done with Rocco Galati and these kingdom empire systems that he is a part of. He didn't get his bar in Canada. He got it in Italy. Comes here from Europe and is able to easily mix and match with the Crown in their systems and really corrupt Canada. How bad this is. These folks are on a radical right, but also on a radical left in agendas. I educate all of you as the socialist and fascist. And when we look at World War I can easily trace the Islamist state origins from World War I and that Ottoman Empire that the UK took as its own. That happened, folks. And we can see where France made all that. And that is really where socialism and fascism is birthed. It's all of Europe. It's what Russia fights with Ukraine, where Ukraine is trying to transition to. And you can look at that European Middle Ages Islamism that isn't from the Middle East. It's a perversion. It's a perversion of the socialist fascist. It was the Ottomans. When you look at what was Egypt and many other countries out of the Middle East in World War I and then in World War II, they were Axis powers. They were not Safavid, just as Italy, Germany, Japan were. These were colonial kingdoms. This group of people, these Moors, are absolutely that. I lived it. I breathed it. I heard the rhetoric of it last night at a shocking detail. They do not recognize First Peoples as the First Peoples of Canada. I articulated so much from the records of Russia, the United States, and the genome. I know from Alberta, one of the greatest sources of First Peoples, and their DNA distinct. We're all Homo sapien, and I articulated that too. I said, we're all Homo sapiens, and you can take that we're all out of Africa originally, Homo sapien. But as ice ages came and went and people migrated, this is where we got the changes in the Homo sapien, especially with other groups of human beings. Whether people want to hear that or not, Russia is the world of science. Like you say, we the people, USA, all countries have talents and cultures and great things they've done in this world. Russia is the country of science. Nobody comes close per person per capita and how much science Russia's produced and keeps producing. Their people are just geared that way. Whatever the reason is, governmental system or in the food or culture, I don't know. But that's Russia. And a lot of people can't take that away from Russia. And one thing about their genome is they know, and USA is the other country to back this up. So if you ever want to dispute genetics and history of genomes in human beings and where first peoples first came from, it's from Siberia, crossing that land all the way through down to South America. And I promise you, at no time is there any record of any Africans other than a small group, just like small groups of Europeans, northern, and yes, in 1492, but there were Aborigines logged in South America. Other than that, the genome original to North America for over 50,000 years, just in Alberta, you can go to Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump, and you can determine in all those layers. I took my daughters there, hadn't been there since I was a little boy. I took my daughters there last summer to see the progress in Alberta, Canada, on Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump. How many tens of thousands of years the American Indian was running those buffalo off of that cliff, because some died in doing that. And they go through those videos and they have the bone beds. They have the bone beds of how many tens of thousands of years they were doing that. You don't find any African DNA in any of that. You find the American Indian, right, Canadian first, the same peoples. You find them with a distinct genome developed in Siberia and right through across North America into South America, the original people, for tens upon tens of thousands of years, undisturbed by anybody else. We're all Homo sapien. I'm not distinguishing that. I'm just saying that Homo sapiens developed in different landscapes, land masses, isolated from each other. That's how we get our facial distinguishments. That's how we get skin pigments, other features of us, because we change to our climate over many, sometimes millions or tens of thousands of years, isolated from the rest of the genome. Doesn't mean we're not human being. It just means that's how we developed. And there is a crazy lot of English speaking, crazy, in high positions in Canada who perpetuate this. And it's Islam extremism, because it's down with America. That's completely made clear to me. It's down with the Western society, advance all these ideals in the name of bullshit. So all those people, I can tell you clearly, you can all look it up. Again, MOORS. You don't want to believe it. And this is a warning. I tagged some very good First Peoples who are near and dear to me in this, because this is a project we're going to have to work on. And I've sat on this now over 24 hours, kind of stumped, in a little bit of a shock, especially being America's birthday. And it's like, these are Islamist extremists with European and Canadian roots, meaning hundreds of years in Europe countries specific, like this lawyer I met who's English, believing all of this crap, holding a significant position here in Canada in law. And then you look at Rocco Galati and all he's done, and bragging, and you know what? She is best friends with his wife. This is their little family group of crazy. And this is what they perpetuate. If they're there and they're able to manipulate the Supreme Court with the Crown's approval, what does that tell you about all our government officials? This spans the Conservatives overlap. It spans the Liberals. And you can look at their parties. These types of folks span in majority in those parties, even though Islam is an extreme minority in Canada. Why is it so overrepresented in Parliament? Why are there all these radical groups that are overrepresented in all our provincial, federal, municipal politics? Somebody tell me why. Why? This should alarm you. It should scare you. And I know the birth of the sovereign citizen, and all you will too. All you have to do is look up MOORS, Islamic extremists. You will see all of it. America's been fighting it for decades and decades. These people are absolutely put in an extremist class in the United States. None of these folks who are in Canada with citizenship would be allowed to be in the United States. They would be red flagged, lose their citizenship, and removed via ICE from the United States of America. And I promise you, they're in plenty here in Canada, from out west all the way across to the east. And I saw literally the head of the dragon, closest to the head of that dragon, in the real first person. I experienced it live and in first person yesterday, like I had never known before. And it utterly shocks and really does scare me, because how is it people like that are able to run law firms in Canada, have a bar, and continue on in high-level society? How is that even possible? And I assure you, it most certainly is. It's terrifying. I have work to do on this file. My plate is full this month. But I hope for all you friends and followers, and I want this shared out. I want people to return to me on this in a month, because I don't want to lose this. This is a piece of work that has to be done. And it is absolute for the First Peoples, because you want to know who really is trying to destroy you and hates you. Yes, the Crown. Yes, in that narrative of Savage with the Indian Act. But realistically, this is probably, if not the greatest threat to you. The way these people talk about you and how they are warped. And I mean, it's a cult. They believe sincerely that you are fuck all and that this is their country. And you are not the first, they are. And they believe that wholeheartedly. They don't believe any of the narratives of slavery or the rest of it. I'm really sad to say this, but it has to be said. But a lot of those island countries were all First Peoples. I have the paintings in early colonial history where it's clearly red-skinned American Indians on all those islands. And when the military moved in, the Spanish, it was murder all the men, rape all the women, breed you out or into them. And a lot of South America is reflective of this, but absolutely all the islands. And then there was a point with those slave ships where, in Doctrine of Discovery and Papal Bull Doctrine, a lot of those islands, yes, the Caribbean and many more, even in North America, it was imposed by the French and the Spanish, right? This is the half share of UK. Now, UK, I'm not going to say did this. I'm not going to say that. But absolutely the French, absolutely, in real logged history, and so did the Spanish, that it came to a point where they said, okay, no more soldiers raping and murdering, breeding these First Peoples out by killing all the men, raping all the women. You're going to have the slave ship after slave ship. You're going to kill all the men in their little war on villages and then order the slaves, rape all the women. That happened multiple times, ship after ship, until it was bred out. This wasn't their genome is attached to the African genome. It's called rape it out, and it was done by these kingdom empires, specifically France and Spain. I've never ever talked about it. The people I have tagged in here, I most certainly have. I've presented on the UNSC, and I've never gone public with this because you don't want to offend people. I don't want to offend people of African descendancy. I don't want to offend First Peoples in Caribbean style where you see that mix and they may not know their own history, and it's not something you want to really go into. But when you have people in this crazy Islamist extreme narrative that believe that they are the indigenous and they were the first, and somehow the history's no. America and Russia most certainly have that. Russia-America company, USA bought Alaska, everybody. Russia used to go all the way down to California and then some. Russia has a logged history of it. USA has a logged history of it. And you never see anybody talk about it, but they know damn well, and they've done the genome to prove it. And they have those tests. UK, France, and other colonials, Spain, Portugal, Netherlands, it goes on, Netherlands, the Dutch, many, there's 7 who all participate in this kind of system hundreds and hundreds of years ago, all participated in it. Russia and USA know that. They did not participate in that. No matter what you're told, it was all the colonials who did that. This is before America and the American flag and the War of Independence, and even before the 130 years, 40, 50 years before that, even as the 13 colonies, those who would be Americans did not participate in that. It was everybody else. And you look at the maps, the French Louisiana, the French New France America, and then of course the British North America, the Spanish North America, the rest of it. Russia, USA didn't do these things, but the rest did. And they ran a slave trade that only ended in the 1800s, folks. So think, when we're talking about 1492, what was going on from 1492 all the way up to the early 1800s and then some. It's not hard to figure out. This is the more than 350 years that we know of, that we talk about, and people point at Russia or point at USA. What about the 350 plus years before those countries ever thought in North America? What about that in South America? What about that? Where do you get all these race breed mixes? What happened in the Philippines? Why are the Spanish Philippines the 300-year occupation? What happened there? We can go all over the Asian world and we can see this, and we can see the testing of USA and Russia on the genome. They know all of the truth. And you know what you find? It isn't America or Russia's truth, even though they have the science to back it up. And they are the allies of World War II. And realistically, when you look at France and its history, really, and I've always already published, when you look at all the American Indian Wars, pale in comparison to France, England, Spain, Portugal, and those colonial genocides in the mega millions over all of what were the American Indians before everybody. Those genocides are epic in scale. All you have to do is look at South America, Central America. Those genocides are epic in scale. All the islands around, epic in scale, completely wiped out in the many millions. America's in the tens of thousands on Indian wars, and they certainly weren't doing those kinds of things. And when you really look at it, and you really look at all of the history, you see a real thing. Be wary of what's in Canada now and what's governing Canada. This is scary. What I experienced yesterday, and that walks around Canada in a high prestigious place in society, that terrifies me. And then it terrifies me when I look at all the political parties. Look at the Conservatives. Look at CPC. How many Islamists are in the CPC? The Liberals, the NDP. And I have nothing against Islam, folks. But in these narratives, so to speak, and then why do we have overrepresentation? When you look at the population, right, they talk about this DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Why aren't there more of other races? Why are there so many Islamists in all these key positions? Why? It's almost like these powers picked that out for a specific reason. We've watched it in the UK, and we always blame the Middle East, but none of these people have Middle Eastern accents. A whole bunch of them don't. They're from the kingdom system. They were born in one of these 9 kingdoms, and probably, if not Spain, Italy, France, or UK, or they grew up there and they got their doctorates or their bars there in one of those kingdoms. You go, so why are they disproportionately representing Canadians who don't have that percentage of Islam following folks? There aren't even Muslim. Why? I thought we're DEI, right? They can't even follow their own crazy radical leftist situation. There's very bad things wrong with Canada, and I don't think USA is going to let it slide anymore. I don't think Carney's going to get his deal on the 9th or the 21st or any other day after that. And I think Pete Hoekstra, like when I met him and his wife before he got appointed, I think they're just doing what Trump wants them to do. Tell Canadians what they want to hear. Just like Canadians try to double speak, double cross. Americans know it. And Pete's no idiot to that. He was in the Netherlands as the representative for a long time. And I think he knows Denmark. He knows that kingdom system. He knows what Canada is. And he tells the media and Canadians what they want to hear. But he works for Trump. And he holds a fine line. And I think we're all going to see here. And I have so much work to do on this file now. I had no idea about this craziness in this group of people, or the whole sovereign citizen thing, and where that comes from that's corrupted Canada and so many Canadians so badly. And it's like, do you know you're with Islamist extremism? And you can go look that up and you find that's the birth of it. That's where it originates from. It's that war on all of you. So if you're in that group or Corporation Canada and you're doing that sovereign citizen shit, you're with an Islamist extremist group, the worst kind, a red flag for the United States of America. Just a fair warning for everybody, because I'm going to do this work, like I said, next month after I get a big pile of my plate done this month to August 1st. And I'd sure like all of you to remind me. So thanks everybody for tuning in late tonight. I have one more day of work this week. I'm going to get back to it. So God bless. Share, share, share. Go look this up. I'm going to say it again. This is huge. Moors. And you have to put Islamist Moors. It's going to blow you out of the water. It's such a bunch of puzzle pieces, at least for me, that are put together. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. It blew me away. And like I said, if any of you in Ontario had been with me yesterday, the whole place was shocked. Pretty nice place to eat in Bowmanville. Everybody's mouth hit the floor on our exchange. Not from what I said, but what they said. And it did send shivers down my spine. And like I said, someone who's driving a BMW, that kind of money, that kind of influence in Canada, that's terrifying. And a connection I had never known or made before. I mean, it's available, but who would ever think to even look at that or put it together? It was her speech, her crazy. And I'm like, no way, this has got to be not real. And then sure enough, this is like a death Islamist cult, crazy. And it's large and in charge here in Canada. And some of our highest institutions, especially our judiciary, absolutely our politic. It's scary. It's scary. That's my video. Share, share, share. Please all do the research yourself. And for First Peoples, you are right in the line, right in their eyesight's their line of attack, where you aren't what you are. And I know you are, but they don't see it that way at all. They think they are you and you are not. As nutty as that is, I shit you not. That's my video. Bye now.